Hi guys, before you get into the next amazing conversation with another amazing guest, I just wanted to tell you I have now moved over to Substack. So it's the Never Settle Podcast.substack.com. The reason I've done that is because of the increase in censorship I am finding on YouTube, and I'm worried that maybe one day they're going to deplatform me. So please head over to Substack and subscribe. I'm very new into it. It's growing. There will be a lot more content on there going forwards, and hope to see you over there. Well, hello, lovely listeners, and welcome, viewers. Today, backed by popular demand, we have Mr. Ian Jarvis. For those of you that recognize this man, you will know he is well known for his extensive knowledge on 5G and all things radiation and not very good for you. Um, but today, Ian would like to focus more on digital ID, that wonderful thing that our government thinks is amazing for us all to be enrolling in. And also something which I'd not heard of before, something called the gunning principles, which you briefly explained to me before I've hit record. So I think, well, firstly, welcome, Ian.
Thank you very much, Mel. Thanks for having me back, and hello, everybody who
Absolutely.
will be watching.
Absolutely. All of this stuff is so important, especially this digital ID crap, let's be honest. So if I think for the audience's information, what is the gunning principle? Where's it come from? And why have you all of a sudden thought, wow, this is important?
Okay, let's go back a couple of it's case law. Let's start with that. It's case law. I came across it somehow. I'm not quite sure. Maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, and I thought, oh, this could be used in our fight against the planning. And having read about it, and I thought, hmm. But then I asked other people, and they said, "No, you're dreaming, Ian. Don't bother. Nobody takes any notice of that." And even a senior solicitor said to me, "You won't stand a chance to using that in the court." So unusually and rather stupidly, I listened to those words. The senior solicitor should have known better. Whether he was deliberately leading me astray, I have no idea. But we'll leave that aside for the time being. Um, and so I ignored it. And then um, I was reading. I noticed that there was a lot of fanfare only a few months ago now, coming out of Lambeth Council, West Dulwich in particular, when I read in an article, a journal article online, that a low traffic neighbourhood had been quashed, and was the first one ever to be quashed in a court by a judge. So I thought, oh, yeah, this is really interesting because, of course, low traffic neighborhoods are associated with 4G and 5G, particularly 5G. A low traffic neighborhood and leading to a smart city cannot be done without 5G. So, I mean, that's a really important sideline to notice. Um, and every a low traffic neighborhood is very different to traffic management. You can do traffic management in many ways. A set of traffic lights, a pedestrian crossing, to parallel one-way systems, things like that. Many things. You don't need all the paraphernalia with a low traffic neighborhood. So I was quite interested in this one, and I read the report, and then I got maybe 3, 4, 5 paragraphs into the judge's report, which is quite long, excellently written, actually, really interesting. And I suddenly realized the claimants, which was the Residents Association in West Dulwich, were bringing that court case under gunning principles. And I thought, wow. So you can imagine my joy when I
Absolutely.
read through all whatever it was. I don't know how many paragraphs it is, but it's quite a few pages. And not only seeing it being used in that court, and Tim Smith, who was the judge, he's not a KC at the moment, he was deputy judge. Um, and But still in the Royal Courts of Justice, And his report was excellent, and he made quite a lot of citations. And this again was really interesting for me of other cases that had used the gunning principles.
Mm.
Why why it had been decided this way or that way, and how it related to that current case. If you read many court reports, you will see that judges do that a lot. They use precedent an awful lot, and that's where the gunning principles, in a sense, come in because they were founded in 1985, a court case, um, and it was actually made. The statement itself, or the gunning principles, was stated by Sedley, who was a QC. Sorry, I didn't press the OK button on the recording there. Sedley QC. I think it's Stephen Sedley, but I could be wrong about that. And in his argument to the judge, who was called Hodgson, he was another QC, Judge Hodgson. He stated these four principles, and he said, to introduce it, he said, in order to be fair, any consultation must abide by these four statements, and he gave the four statements. The judge agreed, and it became case law at that time in 1985. Now, since then, it has been used, I don't know how many times, but I've come across it, many records of it and articles about the gunning principles, the consultation, and it seems one of the law firms, I think quite recently, has made a comment that the courts are filled with cases brought on poor consultation, and yet it is so easy to avoid that, and that ease of use would be genuine consultation between the local authority or the government, whomever it is, there and the public, as it would have been in that West Dulwich case if they had consulted properly.
Is it easy to state what those four principles are simply and quickly, or?
It is. Have you got my PDF handy that I
Yeah.
sent you? Because
Yes.
there's one of the slides in that I can tell you which one it is. It's towards the end.
Okay.
Um,
I'm just sharing now.
thank
There
thank
we
you.
go.
It's slide 21. It's got the guiding principles summarized in a single slide.
Sorry if people's eyes have gone a bit cross-eyed there. There we go. They're good.
22. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So those are the four uh, principles, and as you see, they're not long statements. This is summarized by myself. They're a little bit longer than that, but the first thing is about predetermination. So they should not have made a decision before consulting. It's okay for them to have an idea of a preferred option for whatever it is they're doing, but not to have made a decision. It's not always that easy to prove, but if you've got a counsellor, for example, recorded in maybe a newspaper interview saying we're going to do this, then that would suggest there's an element of predetermination in it. And that renders the whole consultation pointless because if you're going to do it anyway, you're just going to ignore the people. So that's the first one. And they're all important. It's the most difficult to prove, probably, but it is an important one to do. And the second one is about you've got to give a proper explanation of what it is you're trying to achieve. What, yeah, again, you can say what your preferred option is, but you've got to give pros and cons. So with the digital ID, which is going on at the moment, you've got to say, oh yes, we can do all these things. We hope to be able to control illegal immigrants, but it will always also do these things. And not only that, these are the disadvantages of doing that. So you've got to give the pluses as you see it and the negatives as they are. In the in the West Dulwich case, one of the things I noticed after the event was that the number of fines that had been made after the LTN had been introduced went up enormously. They made about £1 million in the few months that LTN was active, which they had to pay back, incidentally. Now, they had not mentioned that in their consultation, that they thought that they might actually make money. Um, it's nothing wrong with them thinking about that, but they should have put it in their consultation. Oh, and by the way, we think it's really good for the council because we'll be able to do this. The local people may disagree with that because, of course, they'd be subject, but that doesn't matter. It's a legitimate thing for the council to think about, but they should say it in the consultation. That's really what's important. And likewise with the planning that I've been involved in the last few years on the telecoms planning, you know, basically what they do, they slap a notice on a lamp post or send notices around a few houses locally, and basically they say, we've had an application for erecting a mast in this particular place. If you want to say anything about it, please write to us. That's basically it. They don't give you any information about what that mast is going to be, what it's going to do, what it's going to contain, whether it's good for this, whether it's bad for this. They don't give you anything about health. They don't give you they they don't even give you the benefits of it or what they perceive as the benefits. So I can't think of a single one that I've read that has not breached this aspect of the gunning principles. Okay, so that's really important. And as Sedley said at the time, how can anybody give intelligent consideration to your proposal if they don't know what you're planning?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I could argue that none of them mention health in their notifications. We may come to that later. So the third one is that you've got to give people time. And particularly, this might relate to something if it was something, let's say that involves a school, closing a school, and you announced and started the consultation during the summer holidays. Now let's assume you told everybody at the school and that your notification was absolutely perfect. But how many of those with children to look after during the school time? Maybe one of the parents is working, or maybe it's a single parent, et cetera, et cetera. How much time are they going to have to put into that and give it intelligent consideration? So you've got to give them time. 12 weeks is a popular amount of time that a lot of the government consultations give. I do remember way back in 2019, I think it was, there was a consultation on whether we should roll out 5G. Matt Warman was the MP at the time, the Secretary of State for that. And I now know only 3 people, including me, who actually responded to it. I suspect there are more than that. But unless you get a reasonable level of responses, then a nationwide thing is not going to be a true representation of what people think. And that also goes over parts 1 and 2 as well, because you've got to make it, so far as I know, this one on digitalized ID, which I mentioned to you earlier, has only been put up on a web page. I found it accidentally. I was looking for something else, and I found that accidentally. And incidentally, at the same time, I found the one about parking. The parking, private parking. So, it's not sufficient just to put it up on a web page and hope that people find it. You've got to, when it's such a major thing, it's got to be told out by other people, and so that people can write in on a letter. They may not have access to a computer. They may just go down to the library once a week or once every month to do something, to pay their council tax or something. You've got to take all those people into consideration and then give them the time to respond sensibly. So the fourth one builds on that because they say the decision maker has to take conscientious consideration into consideration on all the objections, the suggestions, etc., that they have received. Which again comes back to two, because if they haven't been given the option of, well, can you make any other suggestions? Like it's just questions, one, two, three, four, five, like this digital one is. Are the questions sufficiently wide to allow other people to have their own ideas and put their own ideas forward as a possible alternative um, solution to a problem? Okay, we need to define the problem. Is the problem defined in number two? Have you said what the problem is? What's the problem that you're trying to solve? Um, and I have a big thing about doing experiments and testing, and they always say, "Oh, we're going to test this. This is an experiment." I mean, when they put an LTN, apply for an LTN, it's for a experimental road traffic order. I think that's the proper word. Experimental tells you it's an experiment. Now, I used to do all sorts of testing as an IT professional over the years. I've done many examples of it, and you've got to know what you want to go from and what you want to go to. Unless you know what you go from, you've got no idea at all whether what you're doing is successful. And I see that all the time. You know, they say in Bath it's been the same with their system in there that they're trying to put in, and they've not actually done. They should have done the monitoring. This should start 12 months before, and then you can monitor 12 months after and see if there's a difference, if it's an improvement or whatever. Unless you do those sorts of things, you cannot say you've actually trialed it properly.
As a slight aside,
Yeah,
I
you
was
go on.
thinking of something while you were talking. So if a council has admitted to having a couple of meetings with enforcement agents and court, who was it? It was council, court, enforcement agent, and I think it was court official. Yeah, somebody at the court to discuss a new process of how to deal with liability orders.
Hmm.
Should the gunning principles have applied there?
Well, if they're doing a consultation with relating to, I mean, it's an interesting point, because if they didn't do a consultation for a change like that, should they have done? I mean, that's a slightly different question, but I do take your point. And certainly, if they are, I mean, I would have thought it's either statutory consultation, which is true about several things, and voluntary consultation, where they don't actually have to do a consultation, but they might choose to. And the gunning principles apply in both cases, whether it's a voluntary one, as they call it, or a mandatory one, a statutory one. So if they did a consultation on that, absolutely, definitely. Um, if they haven't done a consultation, then you've got a chance to, I should imagine, I'm thinking as I go along here, that there may be some way that you could take them and say, you should have consulted about this. It seems like a pretty major thing to be doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
uh,
it could be seen as collusion, couldn't it, Ian?
it could be seen as collusion, predetermination in the use of gunning words. Yes. Um, I mean, there's two ways of it. In a sense, they can't. It sounds to me as if it should have been consulted, because the council would need to talk with the court, or the court, somebody representative, and saying, can we make this a better system? Everybody's fighting against it, and we don't know what to do, whatever. And they could have worked on a skeleton argument. There must be two or three different ways they could have done it, and then they could have put that out to consultation, and said, look, we've had meetings. These are our ideas currently. And that would have been a way of doing it.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I'd like to see them bring people in, right at the very front as well. You know, people are not stupid. I mean, I was thinking of who is on this one for the digital ID. You know, they didn't ask me. Who do they ask? You know, don't we keep seeing when we see the composition of some of these groups or things, we always see the same names, don't we? Yeah, and yet there must be a million people in the UK who could make extremely sensible comments and on the use and abuse of digital IDs.
Well, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? And it's a bit like people that get selected for juries, the
Mm.
diminishing number of juries these days. However, some people get picked three, four times to go on a jury, and it's like, I've never been asked once.
No, I haven't.
It might be because my views are slightly off center, I don't know, maybe.
I don't know either. I mean, I could argue that at one time in my career, I started working in the civil service, and I went into IT, and I was reasonably senior. I wasn't in the MP facing level, but in terms of doing the work of government, then I was fairly senior. I ran the police national computer thing, 24-hour computer in the day, biggest in Europe, for 2.5 years or something. And you would think, having been a relatively uh, important, I don't know, civil servant, you would think I might get called to do. Never been called, no, not at all, not at all. I don't know how that's it. Maybe it is a genuine randomness. I've no,
Mm.
but I've certainly never, and I don't think I know anybody who's ever been called.
No.
So it is. How do they select the members for these things? You've got to have done some form of good works, or I don't know. I've no idea, Mel.
Yeah.
But
Some
it
kind
does
of
raise a few questions, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Some kind of psychometric tests have been filled in somewhere. Okay, so to come back to you
Yeah.
realized, right, great, gunning principles being used left, right, and center, when I was told that nobody listens to them anymore, so that was a load of rubbish. So when it comes to digital ID, um, what's your thinking now around how you can utilize that?
Well, I was thinking. I mean, what I did, of course, having discovered that, um, I thought, how can I get this information out to people? So I prepared a talk, so I could speak at places about it, add to my other talks, and um, and then I thought I've got to get this out quickly, so I made it into a video, just as if it was a talk, using Zoom, me in a little square on the top right-hand corner, and I did that, and I've been sending it to various people. Um, I've done a couple of talks since then, but hopefully, I'm hoping that this and that video will help it to go viral, because that's where it needs to go, so that people can use it. It's not for me. Sandy Adams, who you know, I'm sure. Sandy explained it on UK Column. I was very grateful to her for that, because that was going to spread it far more than I can. So anybody who can spread it, they've got my gift of that, and they can even make their own video if they want to, based on my video. They can use my slides, whatever. I don't mind. This is so important. And so when I looked at the digital ID thing online, I went on it a couple of days ago, and I was just reading through. What I was saying to you earlier is that it is a current one, and we can just look at it, and I could see one or two things immediately, that were dubious in terms of the gunning principles. And what could we do about that? Well, I'm writing them a response to that, uh, pointing out these issues with them. Um, Am I going to take it to court? I don't know at the moment whether it will get to court. I would need people to support me to do that. I'm not a rich man, as you can see from my little flat behind me, and the so yeah, that was what intrigued me, having been had my head a bit stuck in it for a few 2 or 3 weeks now, and mm, I'm thinking that was, if you know what you're looking for, and hopefully that video will teach people. Um, Basically, it's not going into the all the details, but it will show people what to look for. Then you can see those, I think. Um, um, I start picking them up very, very quickly when I read something like a consultation. And okay, yes, I've read Tim Smith's report and other judge reports, and those articles that I put up on that the slide that comes after the one you showed. And But I think that's where it would come in. It demonstrate really what it does is demonstrate that they have not taken the gunning principles into account in their consultation documents.
So there is consultation documents available for people to have a look at in terms of digital ID,
That's right. Yep.
but you don't believe that the gunning principles have been used or applied.
Absolutely. Spotted it in one.
Yeah. And so you just said there you don't know whether you're going to take it to court or not. What would that look like? Because you've talked about obviously the low traffic neighborhoods,
Yeah.
and
I, I
those
don't
low.
know. I really don't know. I've not got that far. I've only just been looking at it. Well, this morning actually, I was looking at it in a little bit more detail than I did just before the weekend. So I need to think about that.
To go back to Lambeth, they used the gunning principles to get it overturned. So basically, Dulwich, did you say it was?
Yeah,
Now
West Dulwich. Yeah, West
West
Dulwich.
Dulwich now do have basically they've abandoned their plans for a low traffic neighborhood. Is that right?
Well, they had already put it in. So I mean, this is both the disadvantage and the advantage of the gunning principles. You can bring them in after the event because of course, the took the Residents Association a while to get their act together, and they actually used a barrister and take it to court, and then you've got to wait for the court space and all those things. In the meantime, West Dulwich had put in the low traffic neighborhood. So it was running, and they were making a lot of money from it. Well, maybe not a lot in council terms, £1 million, probably not a lot to a council. They were making money from it. They'd installed the cameras and all the other paraphernalia that goes with a low traffic neighborhood, which is quite substantial. And and so by the time the court case came, it was all up and running. And so what happened when the judge announced that the one of the they made three claims. One of those claims, which I demonstrate in the video, is was won. The other two were lost, so they didn't win 100%. And one other thing that I like to say is that not everybody in West Dulwich was happy about the Residents Association taking out the court case, which tells me that many people do not understand what low traffic neighborhood, or as they say in Bristol, livable neighborhood. I think it's such an insulting term. We're going to give you a livable neighborhood. What do I
Livable.
Yeah, yeah. What is it now? Do I live in a non-livable neighborhood? I think it's such a horrible, insulting term. So if you're listening, any councillors, don't use it, please. Um,
So what was the barriers in place? Because in and around Coventry where I live,
mm,
I've noticed that certain roads now have got bollards in the middle of them, so people can't use it as a cut through anymore.
yeah,
Um, so are you referring to stuff like that to force people into different areas and
yeah. I mean, it started. a long time ago, didn't it? When they started putting barrels of
Yeah.
flowers and things in the end of streets and screwing them down um, to the road. I think they started doing that after people were burning them and throwing them out of the way. You know, so instead of actually listening to people, realizing that that's telling you a message that actually people don't really want this. Should we rethink it? They just try and batten down and screw the flipping thing into the floor instead of saying, "Oh, sorry, did we get it wrong? How can we discuss this?" Um, that's where we've really gone wrong in our society. You know, that attitude, which seems to be prevalent in uh, local authorities. The word itself is authorities, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe I'm just as I said earlier, cockeyed optimist. But we've got to get out of thinking that way. And yes, it is those things, and the planters, and then they've also, in some places, I know we've got here in Wolverhampton as well, they put these bollards, either fixed bollards or bollards that go up and down when you press a keypad. Yeah, those sorts of things would be part of a low traffic neighborhood, not necessarily all of them. The other things you'd have is increasing numbers of cameras on the traffic lights because they're monitoring the traffic coming through. Um,
So you mean all of these average speed ones, the yellow ones that we've now got a million of in Coventry?
those sorts of things, yeah, yeah. And
How is that a low traffic neighborhood?
well, because they're controlling the traffic, because it's more than just controlling the traffic, is what I should say. Um, it's about the low traffic neighborhood is coming towards a smart city. This is really important to realize. And smart city is about so many things. Um, it's about, I don't know if you've seen in Oxford, they've got these signs which say, okay, you can come into this area of the city centre. Maybe tell me if it's in Coventry as well. And say, this bollard which goes up and down, these bollards will be down at 7 in the morning or 6 in the morning
Wow.
for delivery, and then they'll close at 10 o'clock. Now, what happens if you're stuck in there at 10 o'clock because your delivery was affected
Delayed.
something, delayed or
Yeah.
something? All these things can go wrong. So it's about those things as well. And then, of course, the parking is for a different time period in Oxford. Now, why couldn't they make the same time period for both of those things? It beggars belief that that they don't see, or the people who make these regulations or in cities don't actually see what they're actually doing and the stupidity of it. I got, it's a slight aside, but it's relevant. I got on a train going from a friend's to Victoria Station. And when we got to Victoria Station, we halted, and then the guard or whatever came on and said, "We're just going to go into another platform because the train that's due to come out, let us in, is having problems loading everybody." So we went into a different platform. So then we land in the platform, perfectly right, okay. And then everybody, of course, stands up and queues gently at the door, waiting for the door to open, waiting for the door to open, waiting for the door to open. Can't press a button. And then the guard came on and said, "I'm sorry, folks, but because we're in a different platform, I can't open the doors. And I don't know how to bypass the system to open the doors."
Wow.
So who's thinking about those sorts of things? Like, how does a lorry get out if he's stuck in there because his delivery took longer than it was supposed to? How does an emergency vehicle get in there, whether it's police, ambulance, or fire?
Oh, yeah, we've seen that, haven't we? We've seen an ambulance stuck not being able to go through.
Yeah, yeah, and in I was in a meeting in Kings Norton a long time ago now, a couple of years ago, and somebody told a story of her house catching fire, and the local fire brigade couldn't get to her, so they had to get the fire brigade from the next place, which could actually get to her, surprisingly enough.
That's ludicrous.
If they couldn't have done that, then her house would have gone up in flames and everything with it. As it happened, they managed to save it. So she brought her children with her. She said, I brought my children tonight so that they know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So to go back to the Lambeth Council one, was that and all the fines that had to be reissued back to the people that they were issued against, was that speeding fines?
I presume it was all sorts of fun, probably parking.
Parking and speeding.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting because I
Oh, and of course, you can introduce a load emissions control.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
go
oh yeah,
in,
the bullshit
yeah.
with clean
So
air.
so
Yeah.
you've got all that clean air stuff as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the big
Um
one, of course.
I mean that is just the biggest I'd like to say the biggest scam of the century. No, it's not. There's many more bigger scams than that, but
Yeah, you're right.
everything's a frigging scam. But I was just thinking whether so I got three speeding tickets very recently.
All right, naughty
Mm.
girl.
Naughty girl. And it's because of the increase in the average speed ones. And
Mm,
I got two of them on the same road within half an hour, going one way and coming back the other. I clearly wasn't aware that it was a different thing because this particular area had been a 50-mile-an-hour place for well, since I've been old enough to
to drive.
take
Yeah.
notice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Anyway, and then I got another one again with the same, this different place, but same cameras. And I was just like, oh, for fuck's sake. But I haven't had any, like, I've had a first notice, but nothing since. So I think it's just disappeared. Um, and I'm thinking, I wonder if that the Lambeth Council thing has had an impact because I can only imagine that because there are so many yellow cameras now up in Coventry, that those speeding tickets have probably gone up by 2000%.
Mm,
Catching people out, people not aware of a new zone or this, that, and the other, um and we know it's just a massive, it's just a tax generation. We know that.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm just wondering whether Lambeth Council has had an impact on that, or whether somebody has actually gone, shit, we can't be issuing all these. This is ridiculous.
Well, what they've learned is that I mean they did say okay, because after the court when the decision had been made, okay, um, the Residents Association and the council both had to come back with their requests for um, action, if you like, by the judge. There's a word for it which escapes me at the moment. Um, and like, do you want us to award costs and those sorts of things. And the council had said they would leave it in place while they decided what they were going to do in the future. And the judge said, "Oh no, you won't. You'll take it down." So that was a court decision, and that was really quite important in that particular case. Um, and then he ordered that they refunded all the fines that had been taken because it shouldn't have been there. So the cameras shouldn't have been there. You know, the low energy, low emissions cameras and sensors shouldn't be there. Um, I did, I think they just do it on the number plate and the vehicle. It's not comes into a certain class, and you shouldn't be driving it through whatever, however that works out. Um, and he awarded, I think, 35,000. I think that was costs to the Residents Association, or maybe it was a fine. I'm not quite sure. I'd need to go back and check. Um, so yeah, all those things, but they're the sorts of things that they would make. And as I noted earlier, it's not unreasonable for a council to be thinking that way. You know, we will get more. Um, we want to stop people coming into this street, whatever. Therefore, we'll do that by the stick will be fines for this, and this, which is why we put all those sensors up and the cameras, like you say in Coventry, and and that works. But the thing about that particular, why I mentioned it earlier, is because they didn't say that in their consultation.
Hmm.
Now, a low traffic neighborhood brings this benefit to us that we can put more cameras up there, we can control the traffic, we can find people, we can make some money out of it. And as a thing to want to do, you know, that's okay. You can't argue about that. Whether it's a good or bad thing is a different thing. But them thinking that is not an issue for me. Um, to, so, you know, it's like saying I used to walk near my parents' house with my dog, and a farmer. There was a footpath through a farmer, and the farmer had put, "This is private land." There's nothing wrong with those two things coexisting. It's private land, yes, and there is a public footpath going through it. So stick to the public footpath, and his land is private. No problem with either. So they may be good and bad for different people, but nonetheless, they are both true. And that again, that's where these, my 30 years in IT and software development gives you a good thinking for logic, and seeing. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't see that, and some places you need to have that thinking, that clear thinking, as opposed to the other sort of thinking, which is just as good but different.
So back to the digital ID. Do you know how far that is along in terms of? I know it's in the headlines again at the moment. I tend to ignore all of that stuff.
Mm. Well,
Uh,
some of it has already been implemented. I can't remember. I read earlier today about two aspects of digital ID that are already being used digitally. And what digitally means, of course, is all computerized. It means your data um, is on a computer all around the world on many computers. They're all connecting with each other. They're all collecting data in one way or another from you. Cradle to the grave surveillance, because that they give it a fancy name, don't they? Your digital twin or your avatar in the cloud. And the cloud sounds like this wonderful, woolly, nice, cozy thing. It's actually loads and loads of computer servers around the world, all interconnecting through cables and the internet. It's not a soft, fluffy cloud. It's where they are holding your data. And when some of your data is captured, it doesn't just sit there on a shelf. It's linked with all your other data. It's linked with the data of other people that you know. So if I buy a ticket, oh, the other night I, I sit in the watching the opera with my sister, and I was saying to her, she bought the tickets online. Now they didn't know the second ticket was for me; it could have been for anybody. Nonetheless, they knew she was in there, and everybody else who was in there. And that would be, if we had full digitalization, all that information will be on these servers on the cloud. Um, and the fact that I was talking to the bloke who was sitting next to me, who I didn't know from Adam, but he was talking about the show we were watching, and I asked him about it. What we said on his phone was on at the time, will be recorded on his phone. That will be on the cloud. That will be linking me and him. So if we ever bump into each other or happen to sit in the same opera again, that will be noted and maybe of absolutely no interest to anybody. But some things will be. I often say if I go into a group and do a talk, and I say, well, if we would fully digitize and sensitize, there'd be cameras on there watching me come in, and I mimic this because it won't be a person, but somebody somewhere will be saying, "Oh, there's that Jarvis again going in. I wonder what he's talking about tonight." And all these people, this Mel Clark, oh, she's going in there as well. Now, and they'll be linking all those people things together on a gargantuan scale. Why are they building all these data centers around the country, around the world, which incidentally use massive amounts of electricity and of water for cooling? They In 2013, I think you've probably heard me say this, Mel. 2013, Google announced that all the data in the world was digitized and on servers at that time. So if that was all that, okay, there's some new data come along, but in terms with all the data in 2013, probably not a lot. So what are all these data centers going to be for? Because we've got sensors all over the place taking what they call data points from each of us all the time, whether it's in your house, like when do I switch my kettle on, and all those things through your smart meter, whether it's your driving bits or the number plate and facial recognition through the screen window, all these things, and cameras in your car, all these things, and it's going to get worse and worse,
Yeah.
and particularly with the electric vehicles, which will have sensors inside, sensors outside, sensors communicating everywhere around. That's what we're heading towards if we're not careful.
It's incredibly scary. I mean, I am the eternal optimist. I do believe that that good has already won. We're just seeing the it playing out, well, as everybody uses the analogy, the snake's going down or whatever. And I do genuinely believe that, but
Mm.
it's still scary at the same time, and we shouldn't be sitting on our laurels doing nothing, thinking that everything's just going to fall into place because we still need people like you that are out there actively talking about this and spreading the awareness and people like me doing it in a different way.
Yeah, yeah,
That is
people
how,
like that, and organisations have their good sides and bad sides, but UK Collins does a lot of good stuff. Some people don't like it. That's okay. The Light paper, the same, on all these different things. We've got good people like Sandy Adams, who I know quite well now, and other people, individuals that I work with. I don't do this by myself. I couldn't. There's some really good people who are helping me. Uh,
yeah, that's great.
in doing this, I'm just the front shelf, if you like, or the show window. Think of the people who are behind me as well.
So for people listening, Ian, and they're thinking, okay, right, so I've just learned about gunning principles and I've just learned that this could be applied in consultations, planning applications, things like that. So what could they do um, as a positive action from learning this information?
Okay, I think that's the best question of all, of course, Mel, because I am about taking action, and you're right, it's what we've got to do. Well, the first thing is that if you put the link to that video on
Yeah.
YouTube on the show notes for after this, that would be great. That's number one to do. Go and have a watch or listen to
How
that
long is the video? Just so people know.
well, you can watch it in two lots actually, although it is one 45-minute one, but the first 30 minutes or so give you the principles, and then the next 15 give you the ways you can approach it, like a judicial review or a court case by another statute, injunctions and those things. It gives you that. So you can split it down in those two functions, first 30 minutes and then the last 15 minutes as a separate watch is probably what I'd suggest people do. That will give you some ideas, and then there are several links. There's a link to the judge's report. Now I know people are going to say, "Oh, sleeping." It isn't actually you're a snoozy. I found it a really fascinating report. Maybe I'm just that way. Sometimes I think I must be a bit of an oddball at times. And then I've given four links to four articles. Again, they're not that long, most of them, but the first two of that are really good because they do look at cases, real cases that have happened, and these are legal people that are writing these articles, and they give you so many ideas about what you shouldn't be doing, why this case failed, why this case won, and that's really important because we can learn so much simply by reading the history and some of the cases that came before. Um, we've not got time to read them all. Of course, we haven't. And probably go stir crazy, even me. But that's your start. Once you've got a start, you can then start thinking, well, anywhere there's a consultation. So if you've got somebody coming in on a battery storage system, BESS, as they call them, BES, bulk energy storage systems or battery energy storage systems. One of those, they will be going through a consultation process. and you need to make sure that the consultation process is done well and according to the principles. First bit is probably just with the applicant, but then the council needs to be brought into it as well. So you've got that chance to go to do that against the council. So that's battery storage systems, wind farms, not having so many of those at the moment. Um, but solar panels, solar not farms, as I call them.
Oh, it's just ridiculous, isn't it?
They're industrial power plants. That's what they are. Um, and that's what, and there's some stuff on our website about that as well, which will give you a couple of links. Because and the CPR, the Council for the Protection of Rural England, does have a couple of documents about that. One of them is on our website. So there's all the the people who work with me, particularly Judith and Jane, are putting information up on the website all the time of fact sheets, etc. So there is that help for those. But if you whatever you are getting involved in, whether it's a solar farm, whether it's a battery storage system, whether it's a planning application for a 5G base station or even a 4G base station, anything like that, um, uh, closing of schools, closing down libraries, merging libraries, there's consultation. If a consultation is held and it's your passion, then you can challenge them on the consultation if they breached any of these guiding principles. Yeah. And I'm not the expert on it any more than anybody else. I've read the stuff and I see where it's going. And I mean, that's the beauty of it in a sense. You don't need to have a degree in computing science or telecommunications or anything in order to understand that they should be asking us. What we want is not hundreds of court cases. We want hundreds of adult to adult conversations to come to proper decisions with taking the council's viewpoint into account, taking the public's viewpoint into account, and then come jointly coming to some conclusion. We don't want to be, somebody was telling me, actually in Coventry, how he had spoken in a council meeting and a planning committee meeting. It was, and one of the councillors had got up and basically slagged him off. And of course, he's not allowed to respond to that in a planning committee. You get your 3 minutes or whatever it is, then you can't say anything, even if what the person arguing against you is talking total twaddle or even lies. You cannot respond to that. What sort of a system is that?
Rigged.
Absolutely. It's not the sort of system that I want to live in.
Well, we know, don't we, that the councils are being run by nefarious energies elsewhere. You know, the directives that are coming in are for a bigger
Mm.
agenda. And so, and again, it comes down to those people that end up as councillors, what psychometric test did they take? Because they have to be a certain way and think a certain way for it to fit the mold for the nefarious to be able to get their agenda out into the world. Because when you're looking around Coventry, for example, even in as much as like taking, for example, when the IKEA building got put in many, many years ago, which by the way, IKEA have now buggered off, but we're still left with this horrific building that was put right next to a beautiful little medieval street that we've still got.
Right.
How much money did somebody take in a brown envelope for that one?
Yeah, it is very difficult. Another one that somebody's pointed me to, which is going on at the moment, Tottenham Hotspur Football Club has put in a request to take some land out of, I think it's called Whitehead's Park in North London. Um, that's that's going through. That's actually been given the go ahead at the moment. So we've had a request from somebody for help, and I've suggested to them they look at the consultation and take it back, have an injunction to stop it from going further forward, uh,
Mm.
because it would be a huge um, local park which was put there and kept there over the centuries for the people to enjoy, and people do enjoy it. And there's ancient trees in there. What's more important than, and particularly in London, a whole load of ancient trees, which are, you'd think they'd want to keep them with their green agenda, wouldn't you? For sucking in all the carbon dioxide that is harming us. As well.
Honestly, it just beggars belief, doesn't it? I mean,
Sorry, it's
I,
not funny really, but
I could sit here and moan
yeah,
on about the ridiculousness
yeah.
of what the councils do
Yeah.
all day. I really could, but okay. So for
So
people,
I was going to say, coming back to that action taking, that's really what you want to do. People, generally speaking, need to look at their council websites to find out what the council's doing, not just the planning websites, although that is something that needs looking at. When we are in contact, or when I speak at a group about the 5G in particular, I do say get somebody who's going to look at the planning portal on your and look for those new applications every week.
hmm,
That, and then when it's come. As soon as it's come, you can start taking action. So being aware, knowing that you can do something like now the gunning principles, consultation. So they've got to have, so hold them to taking consultations properly. That's your job now in that particular respect. So look out for consultations. Say we're consulting on this, we're consulting on that. So find people who are angry about one, people who are angry about the other, and give them the basic guidelines of how they can approach it in peace, not in anger, and start discussing it with the council or whomever the authority is. And that would be my biggest thing for you. So look for solar, not farms. And they're going all over the place. Lincolnshire is being smothered over them with them. Cornwall has already been smothered with them. It's dreadful driving through Cornwall. You see what you think is a lake in the distance. As you get closer, it's not. It's just a reflection, not of water, but of the panels.
yeah.
Masses of them down there. So those are the things that to look for. And I don't know how we find, but keep your awareness up. How do we find things from the government? I found that the one about digitalization simply by, okay, it's been on the news a bit, but I actually found the actual document on the website simply by accident.
Hmm.
And the parking one, I happened to find at the same time, again, totally by accident. I sent that to somebody who's similar to you on the Sovereign Project type things. Oh, Sarah in Dudley. Um, so she said she'd share it around as well. That they're changing the regulations of charging for private parking. So I presume that will be pubs and the such like, and town shopping centres and so on.
And do you know what the regulations change is?
I've no idea. I didn't even read it because
Okay.
I was focused on this one. But it's a consultation.
Yeah.
So they have to go through those steps lined out very succinctly by Judge Sedley. Well, not Judge Sedley at the time, QC. Uh, and follow those, look at them, think about the way they've consulted. Was there a predetermination? Do you have any evidence? Think in terms of evidence, because often when a council says they're going to do something, this is certainly true of telecoms, there's lots of statements. It's going to improve education. It's going to bring benefits to the local businesses. It's going to, etc., etc. No, never a mention of, well, we've done this evidence. We did a survey. Acute need. There's an acute need for this new mast. Well, who did you ask?
Yeah.
Said there's an acute need. There's no evidence. So make sure they give you evidence for the claims that they're making, like on this digitization one. They've given you, they talk about the benefits. They've not been talking and give you a list of possibilities, but they don't talk about the risks or well, they mention the risks, but they don't talk about the downsides or what it could be used for. Say it's how could this help? How can this help with, and that's sort of one of the questions, I think. How could this help in the monitoring or management of illegal immigration? Yeah, that's the question, not have we got a problem with illegal immigration? I mean, my response is, they're all coming from France. What's France doing about it? Stop bombing them. You've got to think in broad brush terms. It's not our problem. It's just being dumped on us because we're a small island and there's an easy passage across. And because we speak English, and English is usually the first, second language in every country, more of them want to come to England than want to come to Germany or France or Italy because they don't speak English, do they?
Well, they're also being massively bribed with free accommodation, free food, free trips to the
Yeah.
circus, and Christ knows what else.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so if people want to find out more about you, Ian, or if maybe want to get involved, where's the best place for them to go?
The best place to start is on our website, and there's a contacts thing at the bottom. It's Ian Jarvis, modestly called Ian Jarvis .co.uk. Wasn't my idea.
You don't have to apologize, Ian.
I feel quite embarrassed about it sometimes.
No, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be at
But,
all.
but at least people know where to find us, and it is, our group website. So there's quite a bit on there. They can have a scan through. They can use the contacts at the bottom. If it goes to the wrong contact, we're a small enough group, half a dozen of us really, at the nub, and if it doesn't go to the right person, they'll haul me in and likewise I'll pass things on to other people. So that's the best contact. And there are links on the website as well. And then, if they need help, they just send an email to one of the contact addresses, and bingo, that we'll do what we can. Uh,
Okay.
we are a small team of volunteers. So anybody who wants to get engaged and involved in those sorts of things, looking at the planning system, looking at all these things we've spoken about today, get in touch with us, because we'd love you to come on board and join us. We're not experts in everything. Well, actually, Fiona's not retired. I was just going to say we're it's a load of retired rebels, I suppose. You could put it. And it does help if people are retired because, of course,
Got more time. Yeah.
at least initially they've got more time. I haven't got
Yeah.
any.
No.
But yes, it doesn't have to be. We're desperate to get some young people on board as well. Young people are not getting the message. They're just not being advised about what's happening or what life used to be like when I was a lad, running over the fields and being away from home all day. And my parents didn't no mobile phone. My parents didn't worry. Somebody would pick me up if I had an accident, and those things used to happen. And
Yeah.
our children are missing out on those sorts of things, and unfortunately they don't know it. Uh,
No.
and when they get to my age, it'll be too late to learn it, won't it?
Yeah, it's a tough one with the young kids.
It is.
There's a minority that are awake at the moment. I hope that that grows, but a lot of them just are aware of it, but don't really want to get involved
Yeah,
because it's too negative and it's too
yeah.
this and it's too that, and I kind of understand it.
Convenience, isn't it?
Yeah,
We
that's the
live
thing.
in convenience.
Yeah. Okay, so ianjarvis.co.uk. Also, we'll put the video in the show notes so people can quickly access that. Uh, any final words, Ian, before we go?
No, I think we've got to start sharing stuff a lot more. I think we don't do that. I mean, we part of our strength over these last 4 or 5 years has been that we're random rebels around the country. Um, we now need to stay random rebels, but also learn how we can communicate better between ourselves. We don't have to take on each other's um, tasks or anything. We've got good organizations doing all sorts of things, from what we're doing, peacekeepers, a sovereign project, all these different things are really worthwhile. But we do need to get a little bit more communication going between those and sharing. I think I said at the beginning, or maybe before we started recording, if I find what you was talking about, Veronica, wasn't it? Who I said I'd read the article by Martin,
Oh, Yvonne.
yeah, Yvonne, yeah. Um, then I could do with a little bit of help of learning what that means for me,
Yeah.
you know, and similarly, I can help people in what I know more about. So yes, we all have the thing that we do and other things that we don't really know. So we've got to get the communication. That for me is our next stage, our next lesson, without making it coalesce into a single organization,
Mm.
which can be just taken down.
Yeah, it's about collaboration and it's about collaboration with respect. So, people don't get roughshod over, people's opinions all get listened to and everything gets taken into account. I mean, it's a bit like what you're saying about the gunning principles. You use the gunning principles. We know why the council ain't doing it because they ain't got the time or the inclination to put
Mm,
this out all the time and to give, potentially a few hundred or thousand voices some time. Because they've been told they've got to do this, they just want to get it done. And that's what happens, but that's just not how we want our world to be. Um, and it's the same with the collaboration with the different organizations around the world, yeah, but and around England and the UK. Um, if we can learn how to communicate with respect, implement what you want, don't take what you don't want. Because it's the same as anything. It's like even when you go into court, right? There's a million different ways you could walk into that courtroom to deal with your particular experience.
yes.
And and it's knowing what the right one is. And everybody wants the silver bullet, and there isn't one because it all boils down to you and how you show up and your confidence and your knowledge and everything else. You could use exactly the same template as somebody who's just won their case, and you could lose. And it could be for many, many reasons.
Mm.
There isn't one size fits all, unfortunately. I wish there was when it comes to court because it'd be a lot easier.
It would, I'm sure, yeah.
It would be a
Yeah.
lot easier. But that's it. And it's the same with organizations. One size doesn't fit all. Every organization has got something great that they're trying to achieve. And then
Mm.
you have issues because people get annoyed, they're not heard, they don't agree, this, that, and the other. So yeah, that I don't know, maybe that's the next podcast, Ian. How do we communicate properly? Because that's what everyone's looking for right now. How do we join the dots here and make it work smoothly? So wise
Mm.
words.
Yeah. So, well, we'll keep working on that one, and maybe we'll get together another day. I'll come down to Coventry again and come to your group in person.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you again for today, and the viewers will love it. And
And, and thank you for what you're doing as well, Mel. Without you, we wouldn't be getting this stuff out there.
oh, thank you.